We want to build the #1 international baseball league.
Oh, what a catch! What a catch, baby!
Like I said, I feel blessed.
The pitcher grabbed by Schlitter goes for the force of the plate.
Ground ball, double play, game over. Wow!
This is a money ball, gentlemen, and this. Money ball!
Ladies and gentlemen, we are rocking and rolling back at it again with another episode of the Baseball United podcast. And this week, we are joined by a former World Series champion, a former MLB All-Star, and another member of our prestigious ownership group here at Baseball United, Mr. Nick Swisher. Nick, it's great to see you. How's everything going, man?
Doing good, Liam. Appreciate the intro, brother. Thank you so much. Stoked to be part of this. I've seen all the other guys on here popping along, which has been great. Just pushing all this content out has been fantastic. And, like Kash said, man, trying to build the #1 international baseball brand in the world. And I feel like we're doing a pretty darn good job of that so far.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So, Nick, the last time I saw you, it was at our All-Star Showcase in November last year. What have you been up to since then?
Oh, just plugging along, bro. For myself, I've got a couple other things on the baseball front. Being a special advisor with the New York Yankees has obviously been my #1. Being able to start working with the commissioner and the commissioner's ambassador program has been absolutely fantastic. Just got back from the All-Star game, and anybody knows, if you travel with Rob Manfred, the commissioner of baseball, you're doing something right. It's first class all the way, so could not be more blessed to be attached to those guys. As well as my last project I've got going on is Home Run Derby X, which is amazing. We've got 4 events coming up here in August. Really, really excited about that. Obviously fronted by Major League Baseball. I've got some huge names on the market this year. I can list one, Manny Ramirez. Really, really excited to get him out there and going, as well as the rest of the baseball guys that I got coming. So everything's a little bit of a secret right now, but can't wait till August. First event, Fort Wayne, Indiana, August 10th. Could not be more juiced for that one.
No doubt Manny can certainly still swing it.
He really can, bro. He looks great, dude. He's doing great.
Yeah, no doubt. He's only 45 home runs away from 600 at the major league level. Like he's up there, man. He's up there. It'd be great to see him back. That's awesome. So Nick, I actually have a question. You brought up you're a special advisor to the New York Yankees. What exactly, we hear that title a lot, especially the fans of this game. What exactly does a special advisor do? Bring me into your role there a little bit.
Yeah, pretty much a Swiss Army knife. Kash kind of gave me that role, it was my 7th year now. Right when I retired, we got a phone call from Brian Cashman, said, I need you back. And there's no better phone call than you can get from somebody saying that they need you. It's just that feeling of being wanted for myself, obviously going through retirement's not easy. It's a really dark place there for a little bit. So being able to be pulled out of that gutter by a man who I admire so much in my life, Brian Cashman, has been absolutely fantastic. Him and Hal Steinbrenner have just been like 2 great mentors for me. So for myself, as well as for Kevin Reese, our farm director, who runs our entire minor league system. So those are my 3 main guys that I talk to. Steven Swindle as well, who's obviously a member of the family as well, which is great. And, his future is so bright. So for me, man, it just depends on whatever really needs to be done. I was actually in Tampa last week, just kind of meeting our new draft guys. I got to meet 18 of the 30 guys, which was awesome. So I love being able to get a hold of those guys really early, trying to set the tone of what being a New York Yankee is all about. And so for myself, just to be able to kind of have that carte blanche sort of lifestyle, I think Kash and Hal and Swindle and Reese, I think all those guys know that, whatever I'm doing, I'm going to be doing something. I love this game. There's nothing more other than my family that I love, other than baseball. So just being able to be part of something, being able to be part of the New York Yankee organization has just been such a blessing for me. So pretty much I report back to Kash, I report back to Hal, anything that's going on, whether it's player development side. As a matter of fact, I'll probably be shooting up here in a couple of weeks to go meet the boys on the road, just to check in with those guys, get ready for that huge second half push. Obviously, we've got a great team going on this year. Kind of went through some ups and downs right at the end of the first half, but really kind of going out there. I do a lot of our makeup reports. I do a lot of just a lot of conversations, man. Just kind of being around, trying to pump guys up, trying to be the hype man. Just really kind of let guys know how fortunate and blessed they are to be part of the New York Yankee organization.
So it's interesting to hear you say this, Nick. Before the show, we were talking about how big of a stock we put in parents in these kids' makeup. Your father played in Major League Baseball as well, Steve Swisher. What was that like growing up in a baseball household with a dad who was playing at the most elite level?
A cheat code, bro. An absolute cheat code. I felt like I had such an added advantage over everybody else in the landscape at the time. Being able to have a father, my best friend, my hero, my idol, the fact that he gave me the blueprint for what it would take to be successful. There's a lot of other parents out there that think they know what it's going to take, and they can talk the talk, but they've never walked the walk. And I've always been the guy. It's always, it's easier to listen to somebody if they've been there and done that rather than if they've ever been there at all. And so for myself, being able to have someone like my father, who I woke up with every day, worked with every day, was my first coach. The fact that I could just go to him whenever times were tough, because one of the biggest things that I try and tell all of our young players, and even on the Baseball United front, usually the best players are the toughest guys, are the most mentally strong. This game isn't easy. What is it? I think 0.02964% of all athletes make it to the professional level. And so for me, I was fortunate enough to do this for 13 years. And I don't take that for granted. There's a lot of hard work that goes into that. And so for someone like me, just to be able to kind of reiterate that, and maybe not talk all the time from the analytics perspective, maybe talk from the experience side as well. And how I know what it feels like when you're struggling in Double A and you're 0 for 20 and you're sitting on your back porch trying to tape up your bats differently because you think that's how you're going to get some hits the next day. Like, I've been there. I know what that feels like. It's not an easy thing to go through. And so I really try and use a lot of my experiences to my advantage and really kind of help these guys and maybe give them, some knowledge that they may not pick up for another 3-4 years. So for myself, I've always learned from people that are better than me. I've always learned from, people that are more skilled than me or more gifted than me. And for myself, just being able to be part of the New York Yankee organization, I feel like I have that, as well as the Baseball United front with John and Cash and, with their leadership, being able to kind of learn from those guys. Listen, doing international business is not easy. It's a lot different than it is, doing on the domestic side. So for me, just to be able to kind of sit there and kind of just be a fly on the wall, listening to the conversations, it's a blessing for me, man. I could not be more blessed to be part of this organization. New York Yankees, Baseball United. I went to Ohio State. I feel like I got the 3 greatest logos on the planet. So just to be able to kind of be part of all this stuff, man, it's a blessing for me, no doubt.
Absolutely, Nick. So after your time at Ohio State in 2002, you were drafted 16th overall by the Oakland Athletics. It's an interesting time, especially in the timeline of the Oakland A's, to be drafted as They were kind of just then going through the renaissance of what is now known as Moneyball, identifying players with certain specific aspects that they love about their game, and then helping them excel at that certain aspect. What was it like for you to be drafted by Oakland and then coming up during that time?
Oh, bro, badass, bro. Just amazing, man. Had a leader like Jason Giambi, who was kind of the forefront and kind of, if you think about it, he was really kind of like that forefront of the analytics era, on what type of player he was. He was an on-base machine, hit for power, slugged, OPS off the charts. And I feel like, not that I was as good as Jason Giambi, but I was kind of a mini version of what he was doing at the time. I was in college, I was walking a lot, I was an on-base machine, and I could hit for a little bit of power. And I think Billy Beane was like, wow, that's the mentality that I want. That's the type of guy that I want. And so for myself, it was amazing, bro. I had no idea about all this stuff until about a month before the draft came along. And people were saying like, wow, man, the Oakland A's really like your style of play. And I'm like, well, I'm glad somebody does, man. This is great, So being able to come up in an Oakland A's organization was amazing. There wasn't a whole lot of rules in that organization. You were pretty much on your own to kind of, get yourself going. And I think that's where I really realized that, you got to post, bro. Like, you got to go out and you got to perform. You can talk all the talk, man, but at the end of the day, man, I need to see some cold, hard numbers. And so for me, just kind of being able to kind of like, jump myself up that ladder as fast as I did was amazing, because I was part of an organization that there weren't a whole lot of guys in front of you, and there weren't, you weren't blocked off in the minor leagues. If you performed and you did what you were supposed to do, you were going to move up the ranks. And so for myself, that was kind of the mentality that I took. I remember, being on a bus ride coming back from, we were up in Vancouver. I think we went I forget where we went, bro, but it was a long trip, and it was a bus ride in the minor leagues, bro. In the bush, bro. Bus is horrible. And I remember getting off the phone with my dad, and I'm sure people have had this story before, but I was like, Dad, man, I can't do this. These bus rides are killing me. Like, this is just, I don't even know what to do, man. He's like, what, you don't like it? And I'm like, no, I can't stand it. And he said, well, then play better. And that's exactly the mentality that I took. And maybe that's a little harsh, and maybe that's kind of hard for people to hear. But at the end of the day, man, this world is getting more competitive. And if you want to get to the top, man, you got to post. You got to perform. You got to be the guy out there or the woman out there getting the job done. So for me, that was exactly the mentality I took. Bro, if I didn't get back to brass tacks, bro, figure out a way to get out of there ASAP, then I at least got to move myself up to the next bus in A-ball and then kind of moved yourself along. But being part of that organization was amazing because it taught me that if you succeed and you produce, you're going to get promoted and you're going to move and you're going to be jumping up the ladder. And so I guess that's really where I've kind of like taken my whole life is if you don't like the situation you're in, play better, do better, work harder, be better at what you're doing. Because there's so many people out there in this world, bro, that are fighting for the same job that you have, that you better go out and give everything you got. Because listen, that's the last thing I want to do is be looking over my shoulder thinking that somebody's there taking my job. Bro, I've got blinders on. I'm looking forward. I'm staying ahead. I'm staying in my mindset, and I'm going to go out there and give everything I have for the day and then wake up tomorrow and do the same thing tomorrow as well.
So you made your major league debut in 2004, 2 years after you got drafted. So you really did shoot through the minors. Mm-hmm. Do you think, Nick, that it would have taken you a bit longer if you were in a different organization? You mentioned that the A's didn't really have a lot of people blocking you at the major league level.
Right. Maybe, obviously, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Monday morning quarterback. I'm looking at the New York Yankee roster now, and there's no way I would have broke myself in on this roster. So, the fact that I kind of got called up at the time, Jermaine Dye, who was a huge idol of mine, being able to spend a lot of time with him in Oakland as well as the White Sox was great. The reason why I got called up was I was the hot man, and he broke his thumb, and at that time, man, that's your opportunity. And I try and tell people this all the time, man. You never know when that opportunity is going to show up. So you got to be ready for it. It could happen a little early in your life, but the one thing that I've noticed in my life is you don't get a whole lot of opportunities, and you for damn sure don't get a second chance to make a first impression. So for someone like me, man, I wanted to go up there, give everything that I had, and just show them, hey, man, I'm a big leaguer, and I deserve to stay here. So I think in general, yes, obviously probably a little different in today's era. But the one thing that I think that I had that propelled me to those next levels was just the hard work and that just dog sort of mentality. Because at the end of the day, man, like, listen, it was a release for me to go out and play baseball. Bro, you have this much juice at like 7, 8 years old, bro. You get into a lot of trouble, man, So being able to kind of have that mentality and to be able to have a father that laid out that blueprint for me, and the fact that I had a family that was there with me every step of the way. Like, it didn't matter if I went 0 for 5 with 5 punch outs or I went 5 for 5. Every night that I talked to my grandparents, when they were still alive, it didn't matter. It was just like, how are you doing, son? We're so proud of you. Like, being able to have people in your life like that, those rocks, those steady foundations, I think that's what it's all about.
In 2008, Nick, you were traded to the Chicago White Sox, like you mentioned. Then the following season, you were traded to the New York Yankees, like the pinnacle of MLB, as we've talked about. Sure. What was that moment like for you? Bring me into the moment that you found out you got traded to the New York Yankees.
Ooh, bro. I can remember it like it was yesterday, dog. Another phone call that I received from my guy, Brian Cashman, that just completely altered my entire life. It's no surprise. I think, people have been kind of vocal about it. 2008 for me, man, was a tough year on and off the field. Ozzie Guillen's popped off a couple of times about that. So I think just in general, it was just kind of one of those years where you're just in between a rock and a hard place, and you're just trying to find your way out, and you're trying to figure out. But you got to remember, man, like, I thought I was going to be with the Oakland A's my whole life. I thought I was going to be Cal Ripken, bro. First round pick. I was Billy Bean's guy. Like, I thought I was going to be the man, bro, for, decades. Yeah, right. That didn't happen at all. As soon as you make a name for yourself in Oakland, brother, you're gone. Give me some draft picks. Give me some prospects, because that's how we're going to replenish our system. So I got over there, a lot of different things over there. I was a corner outfielder. I was a middle of the lineup guy. I immediately show up in Chicago, and they want me to play center field and lead off. And that was intimidating for me at the time. You got to remember, bro, early 2000s, mid 2000s, leadoff hitters weren't exactly like, the power guys. They weren't exactly hitting homers like they are now with George Springer and Ronald Acuna Jr. and like who's another co-owner. So we just got all these new guys that have just completely altered that leadoff spot. Now looking back, I was like, whoa, bro, you should have been happy about that. You get more at bats than anybody else in the lineup, but you weren't thinking about that at the time. I was just thinking about, wow, all the different things that I had going on in my life. So it wasn't exactly the statistical year that I would like to have. But the one thing that I do know is that from the darkest moments of my life, bro, have come some of the brightest lights. So next thing you know, I'm sitting in the off season. I took one day off that off season, and me and my dad got back to work. So I was like, I cannot go out and perform this same way back to back years. You'll just fall off the edge, man. Like somebody else is going to come up and take your spot. And I remember getting that phone call from Brian Cashman, and he was saying, "Hey, we know that's not the type of player you are. We believe in you. We know exactly the type of player you are. You're going to be one hell of a New York Yankee." And you're just like, whoa, bro, I got goosebumps, bro, so much right now because it's like, what? Brian Cashman, of all people, one of the most powerful baseball men in the world, wants me to be part of their team and believes in me and knows that wasn't the year that I normally statistically have. Oh, bro, it was like, you want to talk about just my heart beating out of my chest. And if anybody knows me, Liam, bro, I'm the type of guy, bro, you give me a hug, I'll run through a brick wall for you. And that's just the way I am. I feel like most of the close people in my life understand that. Some people haven't figured it out yet, but at the end of the day, bro, like that's the type of mentality that I have. I don't have time for that other stuff. I don't need to be yelled at. That's not the type of person that I am. But Cash gave me that hug, bro. It felt like a two-handed chest-to-chest hug. And I was just like, I'm gonna do anything for this guy. Like whatever I can do to be the best New York Yankee, not only for the team and for the brand, but for that specific guy that called me and pulled me out from the dumps. And it was just one of those moments where I got there and I showed up and I saw Jeter and Alex Rodriguez and Mariano Rivera and Jorge Posada and Robbie Cano. And I'm just like, what am I doing here? Like, how did I end up here? So being able to go there, I learned from those guys so much because once again, like I said earlier, you learn from people that are better than you. And all those guys were better than me. So just being able to be part of that, man, like the one thing that I had that maybe they didn't have in that locker room was, bro, I'm a glue guy. And like any locker room, anybody that's ever been in a locker room with me would attest to that. So for me, bro, that's where I felt like I could succeed more than anybody was just bringing the team together and just having as much fun as possible. And so for myself, just being able to be part of all that, bro, such a blessing, man, because next thing you know, 2008, man, I was in a bad relationship. I had a bad relationship at the ballpark. I wasn't statistically playing well. And then the very next year, bro, it's like, I got dumped, right? And then next thing you know, man, I show up in New York and I met my wife and fell in love and won a World Series. And I'm just like, bro, like all these bad things that happened in one year drastically turned around and changed for me the next year. So I could not have been more blessed, man. I've always said, man, I feel like I got a couple angels, bro, and I feel like they sit right here on my shoulder. And I'm so blessed to be able to have them because I wouldn't have known what to do. If I would have had to go back to Chicago one more year, I don't know exactly where I would have been at that time. So just to be able to go and show up in New York, bro, drastically changed my world, changed my life. I will forever be known as a New York Yankee, and I could not be blessed to have that attached to my name.
Well, it's like you said, Nick, the brightest days come after your darkest hours. And it seems like going to the Yankees really just helped elevate your entire career, even your off-field life.
Yes. No, bro, all of it. I mean, you name it, all of it. I have a very, very special place for New York in my heart. And it fills up a lot of it, for sure, because I just know that place and those fans and that team and the front office, man, they did so much for me. They don't even know. Like just for my overall well-being of just who I am. Sure, we won a World Series, kind of put you on the map, all those highlight things. But the peace that it gave me in my chest to wake up every morning and to still know that, hey, man, you can still be Nick Swisher and you can still be the guy you want to be. You can be confident again because you know that you have the backing of an entire city that's got to have your back for anything. And so even for me now, bro, when I walk up and down the streets of New York and I get stopped, bro, I stop and I take the time and I'll take the picture and I'll sign the autograph, bro. And I'll talk with whoever wants to talk. because at the end of the day, man, that place did so much for me. I'll never be able to repay back New York for what it gave me.
Nick, during that 2009 World Series winning year, when you first showed up to New York, you get on the field, you mentioned guys like A-Rod, Robbie Cano, Jeter, Posada,
Sure.
Andy Pettitte, all these guys. Is there a specific time with any of those guys where you can recall a conversation about being a New York Yankee, what it means to be a New York Yankee?
Oh, bro, right out of the gates. I mean, these are all like very personal conversations, but you name it. Derek Jeter, huge mentor for me. Didn't say a whole lot, but bro, when the time was right, it was either a look or a nice little quick conversation in the back where no one could see. Just kind of like, I just remember one time we were in Baltimore, and I remember he just put his arm around me. It was just like, yep, you're doing it. And so that was kind of one of those ones where you were like, listen, bro, I'm not exactly your typical New York Yankee, bro, right? I'm a little more unbuttoned than that. But being able to learn from those guys and to learn what it took to be a New York Yankee is one of the greatest understandings that I ever had, because I knew right out of the gates, and I knew I wanted to be part of something like that. So these guys have been fantastic to me. Everybody from Rod, Mariano, Pettitte, obviously still rubbing shoulders with him. So just being, and as a matter of fact, this year is the 15-year anniversary of the '09 World Series. So we're all meeting back up for Old Timers Day, which Old Timers Day, none of us are old, but we're all saying Old Timers Day, which is going to be a blast. I can't wait to get back. There's a lot of guys that I haven't seen. I mean, obviously, you keep in touch through socials and the whole nine, from, Johnny Damon and Robbie Cano's in Mexico doing his thing. There's another, BU co-owner. Just so many guys that you develop relationships with those dudes over the years. And, it's always a blast when you get back together, man, because the stories just pick right up where everybody just left off. So can't wait to get back there and see everybody, and can't wait to get back there in front of the fans again. I think it's going to be a blast.
That really speaks to the chemistry that team had on and off the field. And it's also interesting to me, Nick, that typically on a World Series winning team, you have one or two guys that are looked at as like kind of the leader of the team. Clearly on that team, it was Derek Jeter. But then, like we said, you also had Mariano. You also
No
had
doubt.
Jorge Posada.
Yes.
You had A-Rod. You had all these guys. So it's so incredible to see so many all that elite talent in their elite ability to lead. It seems like there was not all the pressure on one person, if that makes sense.
Yes. There's no doubt about it. Being able to have those guys, I mean, everybody carried their weight. And that's the first time that I heard that term, do your job. Show up and do your job. You're playing right field for the New York Yankees and you're batting eighth at the time. Hey, be the best 8-hole hitter in the league and be the best defensive right fielder that you can be. And that's exactly what I did. I tried to show up and be the best player that I could be each and every day. And I think that was one of the things that was to my advantage, was my consistency, playing over 150 games for like 8 straight years or something crazy like that. So, for myself, just being on the field and being able to compete with those guys, obviously you look back and it's hard to talk about to the younger generation, how good that team really was. Number one, you think about it, there was 4 or 5 Hall of Famers on that team. Everybody played better than what they should have. Like, everybody overproduced. And so it's like, it's like a perfect storm, bro. You get the Hall of Famers doing exactly what they did, played like Hall of Famers, and then you got the role players like myself, came in and absolutely overplayed and played better than what they should have. I mean, bro, if you don't win a World Series with that sort of squad, then I think it's a failed year. So I think for us, man, being able to have the leadership of those guys really kept it together. But I also think just going out there and playing together each and every day, learning about each other and learning, who did what and who needed a pat on the back, who needed a kick in the ass, who needed to hear his walk-up song a little earlier in the day to get him juiced up, like sort of those things. Like, hack the personalities, pay attention to what people need, because it's not always about the final product. It's about all that stuff that gets you ready for that final product. Because I knew really, really quick, if we did everything that we were supposed to from 2 o'clock to 6:30, I knew 7 o'clock was going to be great. And that is exactly where I learned about that robotic mentality, stacking days, day on top of another, to make yourself ready to compete. Because come 7:05, everything else was done. All the hard work was done. Now it's just time to party. And I think that was kind of the mentality that we had. All the hard work was put in pregame and all on the scouting reports, the whole nine. So come 7 o'clock, bro, it's party time. We were ready to roll. And I think that's why when we rolled into cities, they felt that. They knew that this team was pro as well as had talent. And being able to have the leaders like Eric, Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera, Jorge Posada, bro, he was the general. He was the guy that really, really kind of took on that role. And by the way, you miss him. I just look in locker rooms all the time. You got to have a general in the locker room. And Jorge was that guy. And you want to talk about just the respect factor through the roof for someone like that. It's not easy to have the tough conversations all the time. And Georgie was one of those guys that was able to do that, but still have that respect when the conversation was over.
So, Nick, we've mentioned a couple of them on the show already. Our elite ownership group here at Baseball United, Mariano Rivera, we mentioned Robbie Cano. The list goes on and on. New Hall of Famer Adrian Beltre.
Yes.
On and on. What is it like for you to be a part of such a prestigious ownership group?
Bro, it just makes me feel like I'm back in that Yankee locker room again. I mean, you got all those Hall of Famers, and you just want to be part of it. You just want to be a role player. You just want to do the best that you can in the role that you're given, and try and go out and do that. And I think that we would not be in the position we were today if we did not have that elite ownership group. If we did not have all those accolades to our owners that we have. I mean, Kash said this from the beginning. I think it was one of the things that really kind of got me excited about all of this was just knowing that there's no other ownership group in sports with the accolades that this ownership group has. And being able to be part of that, even on a little front, bro, is amazing because you know that these guys have your back and you have theirs. And I think that's what, the overall fraternity, the baseball fraternity has taught me is that if you played this game, regardless of what level, what league, how many years, the whole nine, players have players back. And that just is what it is. And so being able to kind of be associated with these guys, as well as adding on guys like John and Kash, and being able to have those guys, as the top tier leadership, but being able to have the players that we have, bro, I just don't think that this league goes anywhere if you don't have those individuals. So just being able to have, the leadership of Kash and John, but having Hall of Famers in your back pocket, like it's going out of style, and adding some each and every year, just adding on, Ronald Acuna Jr., which is amazing. Like now it's like when I go and I see him, we've got things to talk about because we are part of something. So I think for all of us, man, just, prime example, I saw Adrian, yesterday at the Hall of Fame. I mean, Barry Larkin was there, Mariano was there, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, wow, like what a cool group of guys to be part of. So, and I know Kash and John were there. They were taking their pictures in the whole nine and showing their support, which is amazing. So, being able to have a great group of guys that have all different types of walks and coming from different walks of life, all different parts of the world, I think it really does show what Baseball United is all about because we are united. And I think that's one of the greatest, names that you could have for this league is that united front. And I think that's exactly what we got.
Being involved in something like this at the ground level to impact the world and the sport we all love so much in ways that no one else has ever done before, Nick,
right,
is such an incredible opportunity.
Oh, bro, huge opportunity, as well as something that we don't take very light. We know how hard this is. We know how hard this is. Kash and John, those dudes know how hard this is to get this league up and running. And so being able to kind of, just to have this opportunity, it's nothing we take lightly. We know how much hard work goes into this. And by the way, I wish that the world knew how much work has gone into this on the fronts of John and Kash, just the amount of miles that these dudes have traveled, the amount of phone calls that these dudes have had to make, just the overall BU family, being able to see all the people behind the scenes that maybe have never had their name, ripped off on a social media account, right? Like there's so many people that are part of this that I think, that deserve a lot of credit. But listen, man, people are cool with being in the background. That's okay because it's part of their job. And do your job. Everybody has a role. John, Kash really taking those leadership spots at the top have done a tremendous job. But I think everybody has a role in this. Everybody from JV to you name it, bro. Like just so many different people, just so many people that are part of this. And I think that's the one thing that I really, really like about this a lot is that you feel like you're part of a family. And with the hard work that goes in, maybe not on our fronts all the time, on the owners' fronts, but just the overall work that goes in, you have to be grateful for that because you have to be grateful that the people are in the positions they are. Because like I said, I mean, this is, Kash has been doing this for a minute, right? Like he knows how to lead a group of people. He knows how to be successful. So being able to kind of have him leading that charge has been super cool, man. Just kind of sitting back and watching how he does things, as well as just the overall group. I mean, everybody's pulling in the right direction, and that's normally when you're successful on things.
What we're doing here, Nick, is the impossible. We talk about it often on the show. We're doing the impossible, and you can't do the impossible without someone like Kash Shaikh and our leadership group at the forefront of it. I mean, we're talking about a guy who at one point in his career was sleeping in his car and showering at Planet Fitness. So to see that kind of fight and grit and determination at the forefront of this mission to help lead us to places no one's ever gone before has to give you an immense amount of confidence that this league will be successful.
Yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate goal, right? I mean, I was able to be part of it in November. I was able to be up in the booth calling a couple of those games, which was awesome. I got to interview some of the co-owners, which I thought was amazing, just to get to know a little bit of behind the scenes of those guys. But once again, man, like, it takes a village for sure. And this is kind of one of those things where, this thing's been going strong for 3 years now. I've been attached to it for 2.5. So just being able to see, all the hard work that goes in there, I think I just alluded to that a second ago, was just being blessed to be able to have guys that aren't scared to take that step, aren't scared to, maybe, put this league at the forefront of their minds. I mean, listen, Kash with his family, just brought, just welcomed a little one into the world. I mean, like, bro, and this guy's off and running. I mean, this is his thing. This is his baby. And just to be able to, like I said, for myself, just to be a little piece of this thing, man, has been awesome. I can't wait until this thing gets fired up and just gets itself really, really attached. I seemed like there was a little kind of up in the air a little bit there for, after the showcase that we had, a couple Novembers ago, and just trying to see exactly where this thing is going to go. But now just knowing that blueprint, man, and just being able to be locked and loaded there in Dubai has just been amazing. Because Liam, you were there, Doc. I mean, like, hey, bro, hey, Dubai is awesome, bro. It's a fun place to be. And like I said, just to be able to have the opportunity to go over there and to promote the game that I love, along with an amazing group of individuals that almost feels like a dream to be part of. Just can't wait to see where this thing goes, because I think once we talked about this at the beginning, we're talking about it now. The fact that we are going to have the opportunity to build the biggest international sports brand maybe in the world, right? And for doggone sure, being able to do that on the baseball front. So for someone like me that loves this game as much as I do and has given me the roof over my head, the car that I drive, the food that I eat, I want other kids to have that same opportunity that I had. Listen, bro, this is not an easy thing to do. And being able to start a new league, it's only going to make it better for the overall major league brand. So for myself, as well as Kash, John, you name it, Eddie, all these dudes, could not be more blessed to be part of this, could not be more blessed to be attached to this, and just can't wait to see where this thing goes in the future.
Like you mentioned, Dubai is such a beautiful city, probably the most beautiful city I've ever been to. And I really think that is one of the reasons why our league is going to be so successful, because it's a destination that players are going to want to go. They're going to want to see the culture out there, and they're going to want to go do what they love most, which is play baseball.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, well, always you're kind of seeing it. It's also prolonging players' careers, which I think is amazing. And I think that we saw that in the showcase. We saw some major names pop up that were, that maybe we heard of a couple years ago in the big leagues, and now all of a sudden they're playing over here. And I also think just in general, the fan is learning more about our game. And obviously we're learning a little more about their game. And, being able to attach, cricket as well as baseball. I mean, like, cricket's exploding over here in the United States. And so we can't wait to explode our game over there. And just to be able to give them that, that Americanized version of our game, just to be able to have the leaders we have, the game that we have, the players we have. I mean, I don't think anybody would have thought that we would have pulled off as many of those names that we brought over the showcase as we did. I mean, you're just seeing guys right now just continuing to keep doing their thing, whether they're in, minor league ball right now, independent ball, ex-big league guys, playing over in KBO or over in Japan. There's just so many avenues to pull players from. And that's the one thing I really like, is that this thing really is united. and being able to have the opportunity to bring players over and maybe to give them that stepping stone to prolong their career or to move their career in the right direction, wherever they want to take it. I can't wait to get this thing rocking and rolling, bro, because this thing is going to be badass once it's done.
Undoubtedly. Nick, so you were in the booth for our showcase. Tell me a little bit about that experience and how that came about.
Oh, bro. Kash was like, "Hey, man, I think they were trying to find somebody that, had a little bit of a personality that wanted to go up in the booth. And, my name just kind of ran across their desk. And, once you get an opportunity like that, bro, you just jump on it. You really do. And so for myself, just to kind of be able to be up there and just to even see how the field was constructed from the bird's eye view up here was just amazing. I mean, we're taking cricket stadiums with, that are pretty much major circles and turning them into, big league baseball stadiums is absolutely crazy. They cut out the infield grass, which is amazing. Like, I mean, you just don't see stuff like that. So that's where, you got to give those guys a lot of credit for coming over and just being able to give us the opportunity to, the cricket pitches are hollow ground, bro. Like you just don't mess with those. So the fact that they trusted us enough to bring an amazing game over there, bro, we had bands on both sides. We had the players come on like a college football game. Like it was just so cool to be part of. And anytime you're the first to the party, I always really, really like that, man. Obviously, it's a little more work, but at the end of the day, you definitely know what you're doing is going to help these guys out. And so for me, just to be able to kind of be part of that and just to have that blessing and that sort of, job at the time, could not have been more juiced up about it, man. It was awesome.
It's so important, Nick, and I truly believe this. It's so important to continue to grow this game. And that also means growing the game from the grassroots level, which is going to be one of our goals here at Baseball United down the line. What do you have to say on that front?
That's awesome, man. I think that, listen, you've got a lot of amazing baseball minds in this group, whether you played the game or you've watched the game or you've just been part of it. I think that's the one thing we're trying to do is we're coming from the top down, and the bottom up. And I think that's how you got to approach it, right? I mean, you start down here and you're getting all the younger generation, getting them excited about it. And then you're going up here to the top, the people that enjoy the game, that love the game, that want to pay for the tickets, the whole nine. And then all of a sudden you kind of meet them down in the middle. That's when success really kind of takes place. So I love this, man. I mean, being able to work with, those little leagues over there, which is amazing, continuing to work to create that infrastructure so we can have these huge, little league organizations and getting baseball to be, a bigger game than it is over there as of now. So I think the opportunity is there. I think that, listen, obviously it's hard not to talk about money when you're talking about Dubai. There's a lot of money over there. And if we can start to, kind of get a little piece of that and start to build our own stadiums and build our own fields and giving these younger players the opportunity that we all had when we were growing up, I think is the ultimate goal. So, but listen, man, Kash has got a game plan, bro. He knows what he's doing. He's been doing this for, 3 years now. I mean, from the bottom and, being able to do what he's done as well as the, the OG leadership from, guys like Barry Larkin and Mariano and, Adrian. I mean, these guys were, they're the OGs, and being able to have those guys, to be able to, speak from their experiences as well as, have their sort of ideas on how they can make it better and how, Baseball United can make baseball better over in Dubai. It's amazing, dude. It's you have to listen to those guys. These guys have been part of the game for 40 years. So like, there's nothing they haven't seen. So like I said, just for me, just to be able to be part of this, just to be able to be part of the conversations, and even if it's just a little part, man, it's really, really awesome to be part of.
Nick, every time we do this show, we end it by asking the guest, what is your message for the fans over in the Middle East and South Asia?
Hey, my message for the fans is, hey, ladies and gentlemen, baseball is coming. And not only baseball, Baseball United is coming. More than just the game itself, we can't wait to get over there and be part of the communities. Create a household name that people know, people trust, and being able to give them a platform to, once again, continue their baseball careers, start their baseball careers, or just come and watch a game. I think we've got an amazing leadership group. We've got an amazing ownership group. And for myself, like I said, just to be able to be part of something like this. Can't wait to get back to Dubai. Can't wait to get boots on the ground and, get this thing rocking and rolling, man. It's been a long time coming. And a lot of conversations have been had. Kash is working his butt off for this thing, and we could not thank him enough for that. So, hey, ladies and gentlemen, baseball is coming, and it's going to be there before you know it.
Nick, I can't thank you enough for joining us today on the Baseball United podcast. I really appreciate it, man. It was great to hear from you. Great to see you again. Best of luck with your upcoming events this summer, and I'm sure we're going to run into you somewhere down the line.
Oh, you know it, Liam. Good to see you too, homeboy. Absolutely, man. I'm glad you're doing great, and we're blessed to have you as part of this as well, man.
Thank you. Thank you.